This was like part of my vision that I was like, I hope this gets to happen, is with the water birth and the position that I was giving birth in, I was going to be able to catch my baby maybe. And so at the moment where he was like, his shoulders are through, he's coming out, my midwife was like, catch your baby. So I like reached down and I pulled him up in front of me, and I'm kid you not, it like makes me want to cry. This was almost 7 years. This is the kind of video that I searched for and longed for in my first pregnancy, that honestly helped me feel so much more prepared heading into birth. And so I'm so excited to share with you my first birth story with my little son Max, and share a positive example of what it looks like when you actually feel really empowered going into labor, and how the principles of hypnobirthing supported me in all the different stages of labor, and why I recommend it now to like everyone who is open to the idea and interested in the idea of hypnobirthing. So like I said, this is something I love to take in my first pregnancy. I love to hear examples of women's positive birth stories, not to kind of put down or shy away from those who had negative stories, but I feel like growing up, I'd only mostly heard negative stories about birth. I'd mostly only heard things about birth that were fearful or said it was like extremely painful, and just I didn't really have positive narratives around it, and in turn that meant I didn't have that many positive or helpful beliefs about birth. And I certainly didn't have many positive beliefs about my own capabilities to give birth. And that's where other women's birth stories, the positive ones, the ones that were calm, felt empowering, they just gave me so much hope, and they completely just opened my eyes, opened my mind to the possibility, opened my heart to the possibility that, oh my gosh, positive birth experiences are actually possible. And I have proof, because all these women have had incredible birth experiences. And if it's possible for them, why not me? And what really helped me see that it was possible for me was I started to learn how they prepared for birth. I started to just pay attention to the helpful beliefs they had, the helpful mindset they had, and most importantly, the steps that they took to be able to achieve that themselves. And then from those examples, I gathered the best bits of evidence, or the things that stuck out to me the most, and did them in my own life. So I want to share with you here my incredible birth experience. It was a water birth in the hospital, and I'll share with you my whole labor story in hopes that it inspires something within you, so that you walk away from this video thinking, yeah, I could do that too. And whether it's the exact same birth plan, whether you would love to have a water birth as well, whether you would love to have a hospital birth as well, or not, you know, you can apply and take from my lessons, and hopefully it'll help you shape your own journey and just give you that extra bit of evidence, that extra bit of proof that it is totally possible for you as well. All right, I'm gonna back up, and this was actually 6 years ago now, and I still remember it so clearly. I have little photographic images in my mind of like different stages of my labor, and I'm gonna share with you the key milestones today and how it all unfolded. So I was 12 days actually. Okay, I was 11 days overdue, past my due date with my son Max. When I first went into labor, I was 12 days overdue when I actually had him. So we're gonna start on that 11th day past my due date. And if you are a mum who is that far beyond your due date, you already know due dates are just an estimate. That, you know, most first-time babies are born after their due date, so I need to expect that. I'm like, okay, I'm like definitely giving space for at least a few extra days. Like I didn't have like a hard deadline and you're out type of thing. quite the opposite actually. I really wanted me and my baby to like sync up and for my baby to be born on his own, hopefully without induction, especially because I knew that my preference was to have a water birth in the hospital. And I didn't want an induction to like speed up labor and to speed up contractions and the strength of them. I wanted that to all happen naturally and for my labor to unfold just without medical intervention, right? So yes, so my midwives and I were just keeping tabs on the baby. I went in for an ultrasound a week after my due date. Fluid levels were still really good. Things were good. He was just cozy in there, to be honest. And I had a couple of stretch and sweeps to try and get labor started, I think about 8 or 9 days past my due date. The second day that I had a stretch and sweep was the morning of the 11th day after my due date, and then that afternoon labor kick-started. So it did take a little bit of help, but it wasn't like a full-on induction, you know? So it was really interesting actually. I don't know if I was like in denial, but I wasn't certain that I was in labor because obviously with the timing I could be in labor, being that far past my due date, but I'd had, you know, Braxton Hicks pretty consistently, and early contractions for me felt very similar to that. And some had kind of started and then slowed down like a couple of days before and the day before. So I was just like, not certain that it was labor yet, but I definitely knew like my body like was moving in that direction. So it was the afternoon, 11 days post due date, and just I started to feel like more regular Braxton Hicks, and they started to feel, I don't know, there was just something, the energy about them felt like a bit more legit, but not painful. Okay, and you know how Braxton Hicks, most of the time, they're not painful. At least that was my experience, not painful. So it's just the tightening of the uterus. So I just felt that. I'm like, okay, interesting. And then it was happening, you know, fairly regularly. I would say every like 7 to 10 minutes at the beginning. So, you know, fairly spaced out, but a regular enough pattern that I was like, okay, this could be it. Like if this sticks and if this is progressing, this is obviously labor. So I was just at home. My husband was at work, chilling in my living room. And this stage was actually really, really fun for me. And I'll go into this in another video for you, but I was so excited to go into labor, and honestly it was because of the birth prep that I did and because of hypnobirthing. I was just so excited to have the experience of birth, and I just felt so good, so confident going in, even though it was my first time. Sure, there were some unknowns, but I felt genuinely excited. I'm like, yeah, like I've been waiting for this. So yeah, I was having fun in early labor because I was just practicing my breathing and my visualization techniques during each contraction. And it just felt like pressure and tightening. And so I breathe through those. I would do my hypnobirthing breaths. And then in between, I just felt totally normal. Okay, so that's the cool thing about labor. Between contractions, you just feel totally normal, and I just love that design because we do get this little break. It's not non-stop labor the entire time you're in labor. And yeah, it started really gently and lovely. I remember texting my husband and I was like, I think I might be in labor, not sure, we'll see. Clearly didn't portray any type of panic because on his way home from work, he stopped at his friend's house to get a PS4. Don't remember why he needed this PS4 at this stage of labor, for labor at all. He didn't, obviously, but clearly felt pretty chill. And then he also picked us up some takeout for dinner. So get home, we eat. I am on my birth ball in my living room. So you know those like big yoga balls? I loved that in the lead up to labor, just to, especially to get my baby into position because he was flipped, not breech, but flipped like sunny side out in the weeks leading up. And I did a whole thing. I'll make a whole other video on this at some point around flipping him. Spinning babies is a good resource for this. But yeah, I was on my birth ball during labor, really enjoyed that. And I remember as the evening went on, there were points where I would get a contraction and then I'd just be like, okay, we're not gonna talk during contractions, because I'm also one of those people, if I stub my toe, if I like hurt myself in any way, I cannot speak. Like someone's like, oh, what's wrong? Are you okay? I'm like, don't speak to me. Like I cannot speak if I'm feeling any sensation of pain. So yes, during this labor, I wasn't experiencing pain yet, but definitely more intensity, I would say, at this particular stage. But I just wanted to stay on top of things. I wanted to stay feeling like calm and grounded. So anytime a contraction would come, I would just like put up my hand, and my husband knew we're not chatting in that time. And I would do my hypno-breathing breaths for that contraction and then carry on. Little side note, I felt like such a superhero in this stage of labor. I was just like, I am rocking labor, it's not even hurting, like all of this work has paid off. I just felt like I had a game plan for every contraction, and I was just in my like cozy, calm environment at home, which I also loved. And that was part of my birth plan as well, was to labor at home as long as possible, as long as I comfortably felt like good about laboring at home. That was very intentional by design. I know when our minds and our bodies are in a hospital setting, for many of us, it can trigger an adrenaline response because of all the subconscious programming we have around hospitals and it being associated with emergencies or sickness or illness or all of that stuff. And just being in a public place with like a busy environment and like a bustling environment, right? It can trigger us to have more adrenaline. And I wanted my amazing natural birth hormones to just be like optimal, to be thriving. I didn't want to spike my adrenaline. I wanted my nervous system to stay really calm, really safe feeling, because I knew that would be highly supportive to me in labor for a few different reasons. One of them is I would feel more relaxed. Another one is I would feel less pain, and that was a huge one for me. And another thing is it would help the progression of my labor for me to stay in that calm state and for my body to be progressing at a relaxed pace, okay? Sometimes, not always, I was reading different stories and different research about the hospital slowing things down sometimes, or you know, you are speeding up during labor and then you get to the hospital, your adrenaline spikes, that interferes with your birth hormones, and then it slows things down. Another reason I wanted to delay going to the hospital for as long as possible, and again, some cases, okay, not every case, but that just like felt right to me. The other reason that I wanted to birth at home for as long as possible was I knew if I was in the hospital and I was feeling contractions and they were getting intense, it would be way easier for me to ask for the epidural. And I wanted to give myself the best possible chance of giving birth like without medication. And so I knew laboring at home for longer would also really benefit me in that way. So yeah, so I was settled in, like ready to just be like, okay, let's see how things go, stay at home for as long as I felt necessary, and then go to the hospital when my contractions were like, you know, the 3-3-3 rule or whatever, when they were close together, more intense and lasting for longer periods of time. And yeah, so settled in. And then at this stage, I would say it was around 10:30 at night. And I'm like, okay, I'm definitely in labor. Like this isn't just Braxton Hicks that have gone on for a few hours. Like I'm definitely in labor. And I remember like calling my midwife and being like, hey, just so you know, I'm in labor. This is like happening. Be on the lookout for my phone calls kind of thing. So yeah, so my midwife was like, great, like settle in, like first births always take a while, like try and, you know, just chill for the night kind of thing. So I'm like, all right. But I also know hypnobirthing births can be more efficient and speed up faster than non-hypnobirthing births. And I also know that you can sound more calm through contractions because you legitimately are more calm during contractions, which sometimes can make it harder for midwives, especially if they're not used to working with hypnobirthing moms, to actually be able to tell how far along based on your breath, which is when a lot of how a lot of midwives tell over the phone if you're like urgently needing to go in or if you still have some time. So just threw in that caveat, but I always had that in the back of my mind as well. So things definitely started to ramp up. And I remember around midnight, things really started to ramp up. And for the first time, I felt less like a superhero and I felt less in control. And the intensity, I actually felt pain around that point. And I was like, whoa, these contractions are really intense. It just felt like things were speeding up real fast. I called my midwife back. I'm like, okay, things are like, this is way more intense. She listened to me breathe through a contraction. She's like, you're a first time mom. Like, you have still got like well into tomorrow. Like, take a Tylenol or something and take a shower and just go to bed kind of thing. She's like, the shower could soothe you. So I was like, I'm not sure about this. I don't even remember if I took the Tylenol because I'm like, I don't want to interrupt anything my body is doing. I may have like ignored that advice, but I got into the shower and things were super intense. And I was like, is she crazy? Like, there is no way I'm going to be able to sleep through this. Like, there is no way. She's like, sleep between contractions. I'm like, what? Like, there is no sleeping that is going to happen, but I will like try my best. So I went back to bed, tried to sleep. There is no way that I like could sleep. And it was really intense, okay? And I'm not saying that to freak you out. Honestly, the cool thing about all the birth stories I heard and is that they're so different. And there are people who genuinely have births that are not only pain-free, but like blissful and feel good. Like, if you've Googled it, there are orgasmic births. Like, there is a whole range. So don't let my experience, mean evidence of how you will feel in your labor. Because skip forward to my second birth, little spoiler, and I'll link to my podcast episode below on this one. My second birth, I didn't have like that same level of pain by any means. It was so cool. But yeah, that was just my experience at that particular stage of labor. So I called my midwife back. I'm like, I'm not sleeping. Like, things are so intense. And I wasn't going by the textbook. So my contractions were still quite a few minutes apart, like between 5 and 9 minutes, but they were lasting a long time and they were super intense. So she's like, you know what? I'm at the hospital for another birth. Like, come in, I'll check you out here. So my husband and I grab my hospital bag, go to the car, and drive to the hospital. And on the way, I started getting like the urge to push. I was like, oh my gosh, like things are going fast. There was no one around. We were on like the quietest road, but there was a traffic light in the middle of nowhere. There was literally no one around. I don't know why it turned red. I said to my husband, I'm like, just drive through the red light. Like, let's suffer the consequences if like the police pull us over. We could clearly see there was 0 cars around. So we went through the red light, got to the hospital, rushed in. My hospital bag stayed in the car, which is hilarious because I spent so long Pinteresting all of the perfect hospital bag lists. I had so many things in there, so many extra things that felt like luxuries. I had like to the point where I had like little crystals and essential oils. I'm like, I'm just gonna have like a vibey space in the hospital. All of it stayed in the car because things were going so quickly. So I get into the hospital. My midwife had started filling up the bath. These birthing tubs are huge, so it was like just filling up. I think there was like this much water when I'm like, I just want to get right into the tub. Lying down didn't feel like my jam. Plus, I really wanted to birth in a position where gravity would work in my favor, where gravity was working with me, for me and my baby, and just helping us along. The water was like so warm and so soothing. It just felt like so right to be in there. The lights in the hospital room were really dim, and it was just my midwife, who I'd known for like the 9 months before, and another backup midwife as well. And it was my husband and I, and it was just such a calm, lovely environment. So I get there, my midwife checks me and she's like, oh my gosh, Emma, because so we get there. Like I said, it was so intense that I was just like, I want an epidural. Like, I really want an epidural. Can I have an epidural? She checks me. She's like, Emma, you are 8 centimeters. Like, she didn't say you are not getting an epidural, but she looked me in the eyes. And this is where having a support system around you, who know your birth preferences. And I knew my birth preferences. But this is where having someone just remind you of your power in the moment that you forget it is so, so helpful and exactly what I needed in that particular moment. And I'm so happy that I could discern of like, no, I'm going to push for what I want, or I'm going to let you talk me back into my power right now. There's like a little discernment that happened in that moment where she just looked me dead in the eyes and she's like, Emma, you wanted to have a water birth. You wanted to have a water birth. And that clicked something in me to just remind myself, I'm like, I can do it. Like, I wanted to have a water birth. I'm going to have a water birth. And it was a bit unspoken, but I just felt like the epidural was like a non-option anymore. So I needed to get back on board with my water birth plan. So yeah, something like a fire just rose up in me and I'm like, gave myself a little pep talk, like, I can do this. I was meant for this. And the other super helpful thing to remember that I remembered that maybe will help you in your labor, the moment you think you can't do it in so many cases, and there is evidence around this and so many stories around this, the moment you're like asking for the epidural, the moment you're like, I cannot go on, the moment you think you can't do it, chances are you're in the transition phase. And that's around 7-ish centimeters plus minus. It's in that stage of labor where you go from your uterus like opening and your cervix opening and contracting and making space for the baby to go down to actually pushing. It's that in-between uncomfortable stage from one stage of labor to the other. And it's the stage where people think they can't do it. And even though I was like in such this intense spot in my life, that little logical fact popped in at the exact right moment. I'm like, oh my God, the reason I'm asking for the epidural is because I'm in the transition phase. And I know once I get past this stage, I'll be in the pushing stage. And that is when other women have said they feel like they can do it again. They're moving towards something. They have a mission. They have a purpose. Their brain shifts focus, and also the pain shifts. And I just remember trusting those other women's experiences and being like, that's what's happening with me right now. And I just felt that. So I'm like, okay, I'm in the transition phase. That means soon I'll know that I'm going to be able to do it again. And that little pep talk from my midwife, that little look in the eyes of like, spoke that power back into me, was just everything I needed to keep going. So what was cool, I got into the tub and I was like, okay, no epidural. I was like, but I would like laughing gas. And so I think it would take maybe 15, 20 minutes for them to get that to me. But what I found is I breathed that in between or either during the contractions or between them, forgetting. I think during. And it helped me breathe again during the contractions. Because like I said, I'd kind of lost my ability to really intentionally do my hypnobirthing breaths in that particular stage of labor, and the laughing gas helped me get it back. So that was really cool. It was really supportive. I don't remember it necessarily, or I wouldn't say that it didn't take away the pain, but the pain did shift. Like, the pain no longer bothered me. And what was so cool about doing this naturally is I could feel like where my baby was at. I could feel how close he was. And I really felt like we were in tandem during this labor. And a little side note, because I think it's just so beautiful, is that I felt so connected to my baby in this labor. I felt like we were working as a team. I felt like he was safe. I just had this overwhelming feeling. And in that particular stage, it was so cool. I was on all fours because that was one of the birth positions I remember hearing about that was really supportive, and it felt good to me to be in that position in the tub. And I pushed for about 20 minutes, not very long, especially for a first time labor, and within an hour of being at the hospital. So I got to the hospital around 3 a.m. At 4:07 a.m. he was born, and it was incredible. And I remember hearing things like the ring of fire and stuff and how it's like so intense, but for me it just felt so productive. It felt, again, not, the pain wasn't my focus. I was like, I am like giving birth right now. Like that was my focus. And one of the things that surprised me, I was like, I made a lot of noise in labor, and I was like, this is interesting, just personal growth moment for me, because I'm not someone who likes a lot of attention on me or is like a loud person. But in labor I was loud, and I was like, that's really interesting. I remember having at one point being like, oh my God, I hope the women in the next room don't hear me, because, you know, I might freak them out that labor is like so intense. But I was like, I wasn't making noise because I was in so much pain. I was making noise because there was so much power happening within me that I just like didn't have a choice. It was really interesting. But yeah, one of the things that I absolutely loved that happened, this was like part of my vision that I was like, I hope this gets to happen, is with the water birth and the position that I was giving birth in, I was going to be able to catch my baby, maybe. And so at the moment where he was like, his shoulders are through, he's coming out, my midwife was like, catch your baby. So I like reached down and I pulled him up in front of me, and I'm kid you not, it like makes me want to cry. This was almost 7 years ago next month that this happened, 4:07 a.m. And I will always remember it. It's like the most powerful moment of my whole life. I picked up that baby, and he had like these big dark eyes, and he just locked eyes with me, and it honestly felt like time stood still. It was incredible. It was wild. It felt like everything around us quieted, stopped for us to have that moment. It was such a powerful connection. And I was like, wow. Like this little baby just went through so much, and he's so alert, and he's just staring right into my soul, and I just like love you, you know? So yeah, so then I like held him close, and then we like got out of the tub. I needed stitches actually, which thank goodness I had a water birth, because otherwise I feel like I would have torn more, because I know water births can reduce tearing. So I was getting stitched up, and actually my husband did skin to skin then with Max, which was a really lovely like bonding for them. And then I had him back on me again before we went. But yeah, that was our birth story. And because I was with the midwives, I'm in Ontario, Canada, and because I had midwife care at home and they were on speed dial with me kind of thing, I could leave. I had a non-complicated birth. I could leave after 3 hours of being in the hospital, and that might sound really early to some, and it would have sounded early to me, but it was 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was just like, my comfy king-size bed is calling my name. And spontaneously we messaged the grandparents, you know, obviously to announce the birth, and they met us at our house. This part was not planned. I would have planned to just it be us and like our families drop in for like half an hour, but it felt so lovely to be like, can you come cuddle this new baby? Jeff and I are gonna have a nap. So that's what we did. All the grandparents were in our living room cuddling the baby. We had a nap, and then had a little visit. They left, and then we had our new baby. But yeah, that was my birth experience. Again, I felt so confident and excited going in. I don't think we have to be fearful around birth. I felt so empowered during labor. My labor was only 14 hours long, from very early Braxton Hicks contractions to him being in my arms. It was a fast labor for first time birth standards, and I do think a lot of it was how I prepared my mind physically as well, and it was also very much helped by how I felt during labor. You know, I was able to stay calm for almost my whole labor, and the parts where I weren't, that's where it was incredible to have support around me. My husband was, I told you about my midwife and how she just spoke to me in that exact right moment, but my husband was like my rock, my calm during labor as well, especially the transition stage and later. He sat in front of me just outside the tub and like held my hand and just like spoke so encouragingly, so just like the perfect amount of speaking, you know, like just he was so supportive and so lovely, and just I just felt so like in it with him. It was huge for like the last, you know, hour of labor when I was at the hospital, because I was at the hospital for about an hour. So yeah, having your people around. And then in hindsight, just the way that I prepared truly helped me not just to feel excited and confident going into labor, but also just helped me feel more calm, more in control, more centered, grounded in the actual contractions. And again, just those facts, you know, that little educational fact of like, you know, most women in this stage feel like this, and you can get past this. Like, just hearing other women's stories, experiences, and feeling educated and prepared going in really worked in my favor in labor to genuinely feel like confident in it and making the best decisions for me and my baby on the go in it. So I hope my birth story helped you. I hope you feel more inspired, more capable about your own birthing abilities, whether this is your first time baby or not. Again, this was 7 years ago almost for me now. I since had another incredible birth, and I have actually become a coach for mums over the last 4 years, coaching mums to help you prepare your minds and your nervous system to feel calm and in control in the lead up to and during labor as well. So this method of how I prepared has helped other women too. So I hope this helps you. I will link a couple of other videos for you to go deeper. One of them will be the exact steps that I took to prepare for labor that helped me feel so good during labor. And then the other thing I'll link for you is my birth course called My Lighter Birth, and that actually helps you apply those steps, those hypnobirthing steps, the mindset pieces, so that you go into labor feeling so good, so empowered, so confident, because you can actually do it. You can do it. So yeah, that is it for this video. I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for being here with me. Let me know in the comments what your favorite takeaway was, like what spoke to you about your own confidence in your ability to be able to do this now. And I'll see you in the next episode.